Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss an important organism, Corynebacterium diphtheriae. It is a club-shaped rod which is gram-positive, that is, purple in color. Its limbs have been tied up, indicating it is non-motile. It is a non-capsulated and non-sporing organism. One special feature it presents is that of metachromatic granules, which store energy. These are also called polar bodies, since they are found at the poles, or Babes Ernst granules, like the Babe Brownier, or volutin bodies. Another identifying feature is that its appearance when cultured on tellurite medium. It forms a Chinese letter pattern, also called cuneiform arrangement. We have a fun mnemonic to help you remember other organisms that have volutin bodies. Clean garden exhibits show few mosquitoes and yeast, where each letter stands for Corynebacterium xerosis, Gardnerella vaginalis, Enterobacter aerugine, Spirillum, few Mycobacterium, and few yeast. Corynebacterium is found only in humans and spreads from a human reservoir. It usually spreads through aerosol and rarely through physical contact. It commonly affects children, but incidence has decreased due to intensive vaccination. Newborns are protected by maternal antibodies, hence not affected. Corynebacterium settles in the pharynx, where it makes its home. While the bacteria is only present locally, its toxin enters the bloodstream and spreads systemically. That is why diphtheria always causes toxemia and not bacteremia. The most common type is respiratory or faucial diphtheria, which affects the pharynx and the tonsils. This bacteria settles in the pharynx where they release their toxins. This causes inflammation leading to necrosis. This forms a grayish white leathery pseudomembrane, which is a characteristic feature of diphtheria. This pseudomembrane bleeds easily if touched or scraped. If the inflammation extends into the larynx and the bronchial airway, it can cause obstruction, which is life threatening and should be treated immediately. Massive tonsillar swelling and neck edema is another important characteristic, giving the infected person a bull neck appearance. Diphtheria toxin has an affinity for cardiac muscle, nerve endings, and the adrenals, which causes neurologic and myocardial systemic complications. Another type of diphtheria is cutaneous diphtheria, which is characterized by punched out ulcerative lesions on the skin. They show necrosis, which may or may not form a pseudomembrane. It is important to remember that this form of the disease is caused by the organism itself and not the toxin. Our vaccines contain antitoxins, hence, do not provide immunity against this form of the disease. Corynebacterium diphtheriae produces an exotoxin. Let us take a closer look at it. It is a potent cytotoxin which blocks protein synthesis in the host cell, leading to cell death within a matter of minutes. The toxin has a small central part and multiple larger peripheral parts. The peripheral parts, also called subunit B or binding unit, is a large molecule. As its name suggests, it helps in the attachment of the toxin to the host cells. The smaller central part is called the A subunit or the active unit. This part actively participates in the catalytic action, causing toxic effect in the host cells. It is important to know what the protein elongation factor 2 does to regulate protein synthesis in our cells. Protein EF2 aids in the attachment of new amino acid sequences, that is, translation, and the transfer of amino acid sequences from place to place, that is, transamination. It is this protein EF2 that gets inactivated or locked by the toxin. The toxin is released by the bacteria, which then comes in contact with other cells through the bloodstream. This toxin binds to specific receptors or toxin receptors on the cell surface through the binding unit. It is internalized by the endocytosis pathway and the toxin gains entry into the cell. This is also called receptor mediated cytosis. The toxin is inside a vesicle within the cell. Inside this, the subunits separate and the A subunit diffuses out into the cytoplasm. This A subunit takes up NAD by the process of ADP ribosylation. With the help of this NAD, the A subunit gains access to the protein elongation factor 2 that we just discussed. Here, it irreversibly inhibits the protein elongation factor 2. We know that PEF2 is essential for translation and transamination. Since the EF2 is bound to the A subunit, it is unable to perform its essential actions of translation and transamination. This blocks protein synthesis in the host cell, which instantly leads to death of the host cell. If not treated promptly, diphtheria could be fatal by causing respiratory obstruction. Very often, treatment is administered before confirmation of laboratory diagnosis. The best available treatment is ADS or antidiphtheritic horse serum. This is the treatment of choice because it neutralizes the toxin that is spreading throughout the body. Antibiotics may also be used, mainly penicillin and erythromycin. These are not effective against toxins, only against the organisms. That is why they are used for the treatment of cutaneous diphtheria as well as to kill any bacteria that may be present. Another important aspect of treatment is the prevention of this disease, which we will discuss in another video. I hope this helps you remember all the characteristics of diphtheria. Do subscribe to our channel for more such videos.